So, you're thinking about buying a home in Germany. For a lot of foreigners, the whole idea can feel like trying to solve a giant, complicated puzzle, right? Well, it really doesn't have to be that way. In this explainer, we're going to give you the complete roadmap, everything you need to get from just looking to actually signing on the dotted line. Let's dive in.
All right, first things first, let's get the biggest, most common question out of the way. You're living in Germany, or maybe you're planning to move there, and you're thinking, can I, as someone who isn't a German citizen, even own a home here? It's the first hurdle in your mind.
And the answer is a big, clear yes. Absolutely. Unlike a lot of other countries, Germany has zero legal restrictions on who can buy property based on nationality. The real challenge, the thing you really need to get right, isn't about your passport. It's about understanding the very specific, very German process. And that is exactly what we're about to break down for you.
So where does a journey like this actually begin? Well, it's not on a real estate website. Nope. It begins with your bank account. Getting your finances sorted out isn't just step one. It's the solid foundation for everything, and I mean everything, that comes next.
Okay, so while anyone can legally buy, your residency status is the key that unlocks your mortgage options. See, German banks are all about managing risk. If you're an EU citizen, or maybe you have a blue card, they see you as a pretty stable long-term bet. They might offer you a fantastic deal, maybe even up to 100% financing. But if you're on a temporary permit or you're not a resident, they see more risk. And that means they'll want you to have more skin in the game. We're talking a much bigger down payment, sometimes as high as 40%.
Now listen up, because this is probably the single most important financial tip in the whole process, and it catches so many people out. You don't just need one pot of money, you need two. The first pot is your down payment, but the second one, and this is totally non-negotiable, is a separate pile of cash just for the closing costs. The banks see these as two completely different things, and you have got to plan for both. I want you to burn this number into your brain. 8 to 15%. That's how much of the purchase price you must have in cash, ready to go for all the fees and taxes. German banks just won't loan you this money, period. Think of it like this. It's your non-refundable ticket to get into the game. You can't even sit at the table without it.
Okay, so now that we've got the financial foundation solid, let's actually walk the path. This is the play-by-play, the step-by-step journey, from that very first online search to the moment you're holding a pen to sign that final contract. And here's the bird's eye view of your timeline. Let me be clear. This is not a fast process. Getting from day one of prep to actually holding the keys in your hand can take anywhere from 4 months to a full year. Why so long? Well, because the German system is built for stability and thoroughness, not for speed. And that means you're going to need a little bit of patience. So the first phase has 4 key moves. First, you calculate a realistic budget. A good rule of thumb is that banks will lend about 4 to 4.5 times your gross annual salary. Second, and this is so important, get pre-approved for your mortgage. This piece of paper, it's called a Finanzierungszusage, is basically your golden ticket. It shows sellers you're not just a dreamer, you're a serious, funded buyer, and that puts you way ahead of the competition. Then, and only then, do you really start the fun part, the property hunt.
Found the one? Great. You'll sign a reservation agreement to take it off the market. Then, it's an all-out sprint to get your final mortgage approval. Then the notary drafts the official contract, and German law gives you this amazing safety net, a mandatory 14-day cooling-off period to review every single word. The final boss battle is the notary appointment itself. The entire contract is read out loud, and once you sign, that's it. There's no going back. The deal is 100% legally binding.
Okay, so remember that 8 to 15% cash we talked about? Let's zoom in on that. It's time to decode the closing costs and see exactly where every single one of your hard-earned euros is going. The single biggest chunk of your closing costs is going to be the property transfer tax. In German, that's the Grunderwerbsteuer. And here's the tricky part. This tax is different depending on where you buy. It's a total postcode lottery. If you buy in beautiful Bavaria, it's a relatively low 3.5%. But buy a place in Berlin or Hesse, that jumps to 6%. On a 500,000 euro home, that is a 12,500 euro difference just for being in a different state. So if we look at the whole pie, you can see that property transfer tax we just talked about is huge. It makes up more than half of your total closing costs.
The next biggest slice is for the real estate agent's commission, followed by the combined fees for the notary and the land registry office. Knowing these percentages is the key to budgeting properly so you don't get any nasty surprises down the line.
Now, the good news is you're not navigating this labyrinth all by yourself. So let's talk about the key players on your team and, probably more importantly, the checklist of documents you're going to need to get ready.
A central figure in every single German property deal is the Notar, or notary, and it's so important you understand their role. They are a neutral, state-appointed official. Think of them like a referee. Their job is to make sure the contract is legal and that the sale is done by the book. They do not work for you. They don't represent your personal interests, which is why a lot of foreigners hire their own lawyer to look over the contract, just to have someone in their corner.
Look, if you want to make your mortgage application go as smoothly as possible, preparation is everything. You can get way ahead of the game by starting to gather these documents right now. Your passport and residence permit, your proof of address, that's the Meldebescheinigung, your last 3 payslips, your employment contract, and of course, bank statements that prove you have the cash for that down payment and all the closing costs. If there's one single philosophy to take away from all this, it's this right here. The German system, yeah, it's detailed, it's a bit conservative, but it's not impossible. Success really just boils down to doing your homework, understanding every single cost before you commit, and getting the right people to help you.
At the end of the day, the German real estate market offers something that's getting pretty rare in the world: stability. It's a system that really rewards you for being prepared, for being diligent. And the prize is a secure investment in one of Europe's strongest economies. So, you've got the roadmap now. The process asks for your preparation. The only question left is, are you ready to take that first step?